The Olympics are ongoing, and while these particular Olympics may be among the least watched in history, it still brings up some very interesting questions about what we talk about here, particularly in regards to dual citizenship, how athletes can get it, and what that means to you. We're going to talk about it now. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. And I came across an interesting article from the Boston Globe that brought up some very interesting points, including one that even I was not aware of, about the idea of dual citizenship in the Olympics. So obviously, you assume that if you are born in the United States, you grow up in the United States, you become a great athlete, you go and participate for the U.S. Olympic team. And the same could apply if you're from Ireland, from Georgia, from anywhere else in the world. It seems pretty straightforward. However, if you are a dual citizen, it may not be so straightforward. In fact, even if you're not a dual citizen, it also may have some twists and turns. I'm going to read the article, share my thoughts, and tell you why this may impact you. The article is titled, "Why Some American Athletes Compete for Other Countries in the Olympics." And it says, you may remember Gus Kenworthy because of his love of dogs. The freestyle skier adopted a few puppies from the streets of Sochi in 2014. In 2018, he came home with 2 more from Pyeongchang after being appalled at the conditions in dog meat farms in the country. The 30-year-old will be back for his final Winter Games in Beijing, and he swears he'll be bringing back another pet. But this time, he'll be skiing for Great Britain. How can an athlete who competed for and won for the United States compete for another country? It has everything to do with dual citizenship. Here's the explanation. Typically, athletes who are shut out of Olympic berths in their native countries pursue the opportunity to compete for countries where it will be less competitive to make the team. A bylaw to Rule 41 of the Olympic Charter states that athletes with dual citizenship can represent the country they choose, and athletes who gain new citizenship or wish to change their Olympic status can do so if 3 years have passed since they competed for their previous country. So basically 4 years between the games, 3 years have to have passed. And what you've seen historically is you'll see countries, look at Singapore, for example. Singapore can grant permanent residence and I believe citizenship to anyone, and their focus is on excellent artists, people who are world-class artists or world-class athletes. Countries in the Gulf, such as Qatar, have made an issue of that, where they will go and find top performers, because you think these smaller countries, they maybe not have a lot of natural talent. They obviously have a much smaller pool to choose from. You look at country I spent a lot of time in, Georgia, they have like 1 or 2 events that they actually do pretty well in, like wrestling type events. But theoretically, maybe they want to be stronger. Countries, in many cases, have provisions where the president, the prime minister, the legislature, some body can grant citizenship to someone in the interest of the country. And this is one of the more frequently used ones. We saw it earlier with France, where a guy who saved a child who was dangling from a balcony was naturalized as a French citizen. We see people who go out and, such as Peter Thiel, become citizens of New Zealand for exceptional economic contributions. You see people like Steven Seagal in Russia and Serbia, or Gerald Depardieu in Russia, who are given citizenship out of sort of a publicity or a desire that they're going to bring investments, they're going to bring a prestige to the country. And you can extend that to Olympic athletes, where if you find a great athlete, maybe it's harder for them to play on their team. Maybe it's harder to get on the U.S. team. Maybe it's harder to get on the Nigerian team. Or maybe someone would just say, hey, I'm a Nigerian citizen. I don't have that much travel flexibility. I don't have that many opportunities. Hey, I'll be happy to be a Qatari citizen. I'll be happy to become a citizen of whatever country wants to offer it to me. So then, in exchange, I can play on their team. And there's a lot of countries who would like to bring home medals that aren't as fortunate as the U.S. or the U.K. or any of the big countries that have a steady stream of medals. And so that's how it works. Non-native dual citizen athletes, this is the article again, travel a two-way street, and some compete for the U.S. Nigerian-born Hakeem Olajuwon helped the 1996 basketball dream team win gold. Canadian-born Tanith Belbin won a silver in ice dancing in 2006 with partner Benjamin Augusto after Congress passed a special act signed by George W. Bush, granting her citizenship between the Tour and Winter Games. I actually had forgotten that the U.S. did have a provision through Congress, which is obviously a very, very high bar to cross, of granting citizenship of exceptional interest. It's very, very rare, I believe, that they do that. So that was kind of news to me. In Kenworthy's case, however, he was born in England. He's always held dual citizenship. So you have in the Olympics an interesting study of how some people can be granted citizenship, such as including the United States apparently, by congressional decree, presidential decree, whatever it may be, to perform. Say, hey, come to our country, right? Again, they want to win the Olympics. The person wants to go where they're treated best. They're happy as to be kind of a performer, a mercenary, as it were, an Olympic mercenary, to perform in exchange for citizenship. Or you could simply be born with dual citizenship, and the Olympic bylaws allow you to kind of switch back and forth. If one becomes more competitive, you can go and play for the other team. Kenworthy in 2014 qualified for the games in 2 events, slopestyle and halfpipe, but he was only chosen for the U.S. team in 1. He won silver in 1, but left feeling some disappointment that he couldn't do both. It wasn't an easy decision to make, he said. I had the first discussion about it prior to the 2014 Olympics. I had never really had crazy Olympic aspirations because it just wasn't on the table. And then when it was announced that ski slope and halfpipe were going to be included, that's where I focused to switch on, he told GQ. Basically, he said, it's just a little bit of strategy about how we changed to perform for the UK. The US has 225 Olympic athletes in the Winter Games, whereas the UK has 50. And basically what he did was he went where he was treated best. This Olympic athlete said, the U.S. team is not putting me on the events that I want to do, and I happen to be born in the U.K., and so I'm going to go over there. I'm going to take my talents to Great Britain. And he did that, and now he's getting exactly what he wants. It's a perfect example of go where you're treated best because he didn't have the opportunities. In the same way we often talk to entrepreneurs, obviously there are plenty of entrepreneurial opportunities in the United States, but you pay a very high price from those. If you're educated in the U.S., if you have U.S. connections, U.S. instincts, you can take that, and with business being remote these days, you can run a business online from anywhere in a place where they take a lot less of your money. You pay much less in tax, you have more freedom, you have a better social life, you have whatever it is that you're looking for in some other country. You're going where you're treated best. And in the same way, if you grew up and you lived in the U.S. and you were a great athlete, what's to say that if you were born with another citizenship, why can't you serve that country? Or if you can have an adopted home, as in the case of Hakeem Olajuwon, I remember that, why can't you perform for them? This is the athletic version, the Olympic version of go where you're treated best, of choosing. And it's a very interesting thing to think about. That if you have talents to bring to a country, you may be able to get a residence permit. You may be able to work towards citizenship. Even if you're not an Olympic athlete, it is worth considering that when you're looking at all the people in the world right now who are in business, who are investors, who maybe aren't going to be in the half pipe in the Olympics, but you are excellent in what you do. There are countries that want those talents. They may be smaller countries. They may be countries that perhaps aren't as financially well off, unlike in the case of a Singapore or a Qatar, where their goal isn't, maybe bringing in someone who can invest $1 million. That's not necessarily interesting to them. They want gold medals. They want acclaim. But there are other countries where they say, hey, you know what? Bring $1 million. Sure, hire 10 people, hire 20 people, hire 50 people. We'll give you a residence permit. There are countries like, for example, Bulgaria, like Turkey, like Colombia, like so many countries around the world. Armenia, you can hire. If you are bringing jobs, for example, you are perhaps the Olympic gold medal winner in some of these countries if you bring 10 or 20 jobs. I was talking to a gentleman from Asia who recently hired about 100 IT workers in Armenia. He's a star there for doing that, and was able to get a very long-term residence permit and was able to get some great stuff because where he's from, or where I'm from in the United States, hey, you know what, you hired 20 people, who cares? There you hire 100 high-paying jobs. I mean, you are a superstar. This is what go where you're treated best is all about. And if you can obtain some other nationality, and you can use that not only to protect yourself, not only to keep more of your own money, not only to build your internationalization plan, but you can actively use that to improve your life. That's what we're here about at Nomad Capitalist. The Olympics are the same thing as what we're doing here in business. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.